Redfern from Plus Health Company here. Today we're going to talk about standing as a position. Of course, it's extremely functional. We spend lots of time as humans being stood up. So how we stand can really make a difference to how we feel. And it may be that you're somebody who has a limited tolerance to being in a standing position, and after a while it becomes uncomfortable. So let's think about all the things we should be noticing when we're stood, and that can really make all the difference. Firstly, begin with your feet together. You may like to stand next to a wall or a high sill or a dresser just to help you with that. Balance is an issue. But notice how you feel with your feet together. And now, turn your toes outwards and bring your heels in line with your toes. This is hip distance apart. And you'll probably find that compared to when your feet are stuck together, that this feels more safe and you'll feel more confident and less wobbly. So it's always a good place to start when you're doing standing work or standing tasks. The next thing to consider is how you're weight bearing through your feet. Now ideally, you'll be spending 50% of your weight through each foot. But if you've had pain and discomfort through one side for whatever reason, and for however long, you may have started to be less inclined to take your weight into that side. And as a result, you'll also walk differently as well. So let's just start to begin to build confidence by transferring our weight through into each side. So draw your weight across into one side and then back to the other. Imagine you're on a boat on a gentle sea, just bobbing along, and you can feel the movement of those waves rolling under the boat. Don't worry if you don't feel confident right away. It's like anything, the more you practice, the better your body will feel about it, and the less worried it will be about weight bearing through that side more equally to the other. So try where you can to share your weight now, so there's a 50-50 split. Now we need to think about how we're weight bearing through the front and the back of the foot. So, still on your boat, draw your weight forwards into your toes and then back into your heels this time. Go steady with it. Sometimes it can feel very different and it might make you feel a little bit wobbly, and remember that's okay because we're finely tuning our body like we would an instrument. Think about where you feel more confident. Is it back in your heels or forwards in your toes? Wherever that is for you, just find the midway point. So you're trying to find 50-50 share across the front and the back of the foot, as well as side to side. You might like to imagine you're stood on two little tripods with the points under the big toe, the little toe, and the centre of the heel bone on each side. And that can help you to think about maintaining evenness across the feet, because how the feet are positioned influences the rest of the body. Now, we have an arch along the inner aspect of each foot called the medial longitudinal arch, and that also influences our position as a whole. So imagine you have a small raisin or perhaps a little Malteser under the inner arch of your foot on each side. You're not trying to lift away from it so that the big toe and the inner aspect of your heel rises off the floor. You're just thinking about creating a little space there and maintaining it. Now soften around your knees so there isn't a feeling of locking the knees back. That can become uncomfortable for your knee over a period. And then bring your hands to the pelvis. We're going to look at something called pelvic tilt, and this is especially good for people who have back pain, hip or pelvic issues, and particularly if you notice them when you are stood. So stick your bottom out and arch your back, and then tuck your bottom under and flatten your back. You might like to imagine that your pelvis is like a bucket and it's filled with water and you're sloshing it out the front and the back. You'll find that you move better in one direction more so than the other. Find your midway point, so you're halfway between the two. That's called our neutral spine, our neutral pelvis position. Next, think about your lower abdominals. Put your hands on your lower tummy and just gently lift your tummy muscles away from your hands, very gently whilst breathing. It's a bit like if you've had a larger lunch than usual and you're just struggling to do that top button up a little bit more than you would ordinarily. So it's not a big sucking in experience, it's just a feeling of gentle support, a gentle lift. And then maintain that. and to move your attention up towards your rib cage. Imagine that your rib cage and your pelvis are boxes stacked on top of each other. So we're trying to avoid a feeling of the ribs flaring forwards and the hips being forwards of the rib cage. Instead, we'd like them to sit on top of one another. Get a sense of length along your spine all the way through to the top of your head now. Imagine that your spine is a series of corks bobbing up to the surface of the water. And feel to be wide across the front of your shoulders, so your collarbones feel open. Now, some people talk about pull your shoulders back or draw your shoulder blades down to your back pockets, but your back pockets are rather far from your shoulder blades, folks, and that isn't a normal position for us. So scratch that, don't do that. Instead, have a sense of openness across the collarbones. Imagine little strings just drawing you outwards slightly, and a torch on your chest bone that's shining forwards most of the time. Finally, consider your head and neck. Think of this being the top drawer of a filing cabinet, and for a moment, open that top drawer and then close it. No forcing, but feeling a sense of poking your head forwards and then making as many double chins as you're able to. Try that a couple of times and then settle in the mid position, about halfway between the two. And just pretend that you have a little peach, a little satsuma under your chin that you're trying to hold in place, all without feeling like you've stiffened up. And this should make you feel good about standing. So it's worth considering how you're stood when you're looking at tasks around the home, such as washing up, for example, when you're waiting in the supermarket queue to pay, at the bus stop, talking to a friend in the park, wherever you are, just consider how you're stood. And it might be, particularly if you have issues with your lower back, that after you've been stood for a while, you start to recline, and the box from the rib cage does not sit directly over the box for the pelvis. So it can be helpful to imagine that you have little springs from the lower part of your rib cage connecting to the front of your pelvis, and just get a sense of keeping them under a degree of tension as you maintain length across the spine at the back. So hopefully you've got a few more ideas now about how to assume a nice standing posture, all without feeling tension or a shift of weight across one side to the other, totally balanced. And as you practice that more, you should find that everything feels better and you'll start to move, walk, run better as well. So thanks for tuning in. Until next time, bye for now.